I'm coming. Hey! Welcome, y'all. Hopefully, you guys can hear us. We are Stories to D4, and welcome back to Footnotes. We are super excited to welcome Clella, and we'll get some confirmation in just a second to make sure you guys can hear us okay. Welcome, Clella. We're glad to have you.
I'm glad to be here. It's weird to be on this side of the table, honestly.
Oh, yeah, everything's fundamentally wrong?
Yeah, the camera's in a very different place. I'm, looking left and right.
Yeah, not just...
I mean, I'm very used to you being on the same side of the table, as me, but, Matthew shouldn't be here.
Would it be easier if I hid, this much of me? And just...
Yeah, that might be more familiar.
Yeah, we can get this and move it over there and just put you behind it.
Just put
should I start bringing
a
a screen here?
Yeah, just to hide you.
Those things they use at schools,
we
so
can
you
be
don't
heard.
cheat on tests.
Audio's good.
Awesome.
I just wanted to check. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that.
Awesome. Thank you.
So, starting off, as always, I want to really quickly explain. Footnotes here is our D&D after show. We're going to be talking about this week's session. If you've not yet seen episode 3 of our campaign in the Kingdom of Elves, I highly recommend you check that out, as we're going to be talking about a festival, a fun festival, I would say.
And we'll try to be very clear when we're about to go into the session in specifics, because we've got a bunch of things we want to talk about. So we'll try to make sure we preface that section with a little spoiler warning. But
spoiler warning. Spoiler.
Yeah.
In spoiler warning.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool.
Well, then I'm going to say spoiler warning, as I'm just going to really quickly remind everyone what happened here on Friday. So last time we all got together, the party had completed their contract, or a good chunk of their contract in Coppersbeck. You had worked with Johann Diddich and Quill to obtain all of the little bits and pieces you need to get that nice, just a whole collection of silver and gold, and in Elle's case, platinum, just to get their first payment to help them on their journey to the capital. In celebration, and while waiting for Oswald to finish his work here in Coppersbeck, you get to actually have a little bit of downtime, which we're going to chat about in just a minute, and also participate in a festival which ended... Let's say maybe not top 10 festival endings.
I think the word is tragic.
Top
tragically.
10 in D&D festivals for sure.
Have we had a festival without a murder? Ever?
You absolutely have.
We have.
Most of them have not been murder. You simply remember the murdery ones.
When I think of festivals, I think of the one where our castle was besieged.
Yeah,
the siege of Castle Carter.
Yeah, and our big tree was burned down, and the BBG showed up, and
the messy session. That was a messy session. It's every festival. You have to have.
I'm just
messy
saying, we don't have a good track record for festivals.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I promise the next festival will only be good things.
I'm sure.
We'll be doing the murder.
Yeah, there we go.
Genius. Well, so we'll talk a little bit more about how that session ended and how we're feeling about that. But before we get, we'll come out of spoiler mode for those of you who've been holding your breath, and introduce and have our first player spotlight with Clella. Welcome.
Hi.
We're super excited to have you. How long have you been playing D&D? Or any TTRPG?
Honestly, D&D was my first TTRPG. Unless you count kind of a brief interaction through video games, and actually spent a lot of time going back once I learned D&D properly and replaying those games and was oh, these mechanics matter.
Yeah.
But I think 4 years now I started playing after college.
Right.
And I had been playing for about 6 months when I started playing at, not this exact table. It was a very different table.
No.
But at this metaphoric table.
Yes,
yeah.
it was at my table, but it was when my table was still folding.
Yeah. So went from having a level 7 rogue who perma died to, I think I started with at 11th level 11.
So Ibra started off with 4th level spells, so it would be level 7.
Yeah.
7 or 8. It's a little bit
level
earlier.
11.
Yeah.
Later, but
I
knew you were at the table when we hit
we did
the first sheet I physically have. a copy of still is 11.
Yeah, so we did for sure have Miss Karen, Ibra Karen, Clella's previous PC, actually ran all the way to the end of our first campaign. And today, we're actually going to get to talk a little bit about what that campaign was all about. And because the campaign's over, if you have, you get to air your grievances, yell at your DM, or...
Beautiful.
Essentially.
I managed not to get her killed, which is... Well, I mean,
no,
she
did.
did die, like, many times, but, like,
Yeah.
not permanently.
Yeah, that's the thing about D&D is you can die a couple times usually.
If you die in the game, you do not, in fact, die in real life.
Good.
That's
Good.
actually a table rule. Not everyone plays by the house rule, but I desperately prefer to kill player characters than players, generally speaking.
Okay, sorry. I'll stay over here, very far away. So, I loved our campaign 1, so our home game, and it's very weird. Just the dynamic differences. I started at a table, and we played this whole campaign all the way through. I started at level 1, got to level 20, same character, and that table makeup kind of changed over time. And now starting with what the end of that campaign's table was, and moving into this campaign, it's so weird, the new character relationships, and where we were versus where we are now. And it's just kind of like the roles everybody's playing have changed so much, too, that we're all kind of trying to get to learn each other. But learn our own characters and what else is going on at the table is weird.
Like, I get what you mean. Like, not just going from, like, 20 to 2, but, like, I am so used to, like, Connor being a marshal. Like,
right, yeah.
Like, and a straight marshal at that. Like, seeing him
Do we
being
wanna-
very much not a marshal is...
We would like to talk about just a
Are we
super
talking
short
Baron
who
Keppel?
everyone, what people played in the last campaign. Shall we?
Yeah, sure. I played a dwarf bard, and I had a very, very attractive wife.
So yes, we had Finland Hammerborn,
Yeah.
our dwarven bard, and tell me a little bit, Clella. I forget, who did you play last time? Did she matter in the end?
I will not rest your bait. I played a high elven wizard, divination wizard, technically on paper.
On paper,
Yeah.
Like, on paper, I was a bard.
You were very much a bard.
I was a bard, but I ended up just kind of being... I felt like I was nonsense by the... or at least I didn't follow the typical bard.
Are you talking about, like, I'm going to raise a wall that blocks off a mountain pass? Like,
And trap an army to be...
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to the level of war in our last
did do a
campaign.
war.
So again,
Blame
also...
Jason.
You stopped a war. Yeah, actually, that's true. It's the daily blame Jason. Let that just be a segment here on Footnotes where we blame Jason.
Guchin,
Oh, I'll go.
you're out of frame.
Hello. But we should for sure, whenever we get the chance, call out our friend Jason as if there was something that exploded in universe, he was very often flying away from the scene of the crime.
Yeah. But it's also, for me, the fun part is, like, we played characters, we got married, we have kids, this all exists, and now we are playing, like, this servant-master relationship where I'm, like, I need to try to guide
Like a
them.
like it
literal.
being
Let me
called
clarify.
out.
Let's update this. We are playing a pair of noble families where one of them is a vassal to another.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's avoid servant master dynamics.
okay.
I mean,
Well-
like, our other characters are, like, off running a school, they're off
Right.
playing, like, they're super
They're playing
powerful.
and having fun, like, not fighting in wars. And now, I like to think of... I do admit that some of it was, if you played Fire Emblem Three Houses, Hubert was actually one of the people that I
Oh
considered...
my gosh, yes.
For creating my character, one of the people that I thought of was Hubert. So if you played that... Spoiler warning there.
Does that make you Lady Edelgard?
You are Lady
Is that-
Guard. Sorry.
Oh,
I did do her route when I did
You
Three
understand
Houses.
then?
Yeah.
You understand who I am.
I'm only, like 200 hours into the game, so I'm nowhere close to finish.
So, yeah, and don't worry, we're not spoiling Fire Emblem.
Right, we're not going to do that today. But it's that one thing right there where we're sitting at the table and we are playing people who come from such a different place as before. I was a paper pirate, now I am a noble lady. You were a wizard detective, now you're a noble lady. Again, but also with a sword that you actually use.
And your characters are quite different. Before I go into sort of where L specifically is coming from, I want to really quickly explain the last campaign They were known as the Guardians of the Silver Dawn. These now legendary heroes who defended the realm from a series of threats. Of course, we have Finlan and Ibra, formerly Finlan and
Former
Ibra.
Finland.
But we also had, for Connor, who now plays Laurentius Thorn, he played a martial master, a very strong knight named Kevril Carter. Though we do take place far enough ahead in the future, Kevril unfortunately has passed.
40-ish years?
It's been about 45 years since the last campaign. And of course, we have Jake and Amanda, who play Silas and Gwynwyn, respectively, in this campaign. In our previous campaign, actually played more than one character in Jake's part, but at the end, a character named Vander for Jake, and a character named Jeswyn. And
Granny Jeswyn.
Granny Jasmine.
Granny Jeswyn. We had. I do highly recommend for you DMs out there who have players who are looking for inspiration. Look towards if you've got family and you want to point generally at a parental form of unit. Jeswyn was a sort of grandmother figure, both literally and figuratively. She had children in the universe who were motivation and such. And also was very much a guiding voice and a major help to the party. But it wasn't just player characters that traveled with the Guardians. There were is it okay?
No, say it.
There were a pair of non-player characters, NPCs.
We had a few.
Yes, but there's two. There's two that are a little bit relevant to today. Their names were Cestus and Delilah, and these two eventually had a daughter. Now, Cestus Arundral, being the head of House Arundral, would pass that name along down to Elilie Arundral. And so you started planning before the end of the campaign. It was very much a motivation to keep those NPCs alive, to play who you wanted to play in campaign 2.
Yeah, I mean, we loved, like, they were like some of our favorite NPCs. Like, they were super. The Delilah twist still gets me.
Yeah. We fell in love with them because both NPCs had something major, dramatic story happen with them. So that happens with a lot of NPCs. We did. There was a particular one with a trial that we had to go rescue later. We had NPCs lose family or travel with us and just like go through hardships with us. But
we adopted people.
We adopted multiple
Many
people too. We got in trouble for that one. But Cestus and Delilah both had such impactful story moments for us, which I want to talk about that later in regards to session 3, because both of them, I think,
maybe I think we'll when it comes to
back.
Delilah, we'll keep that for a footnotes at a later date.
No, but I'll just say that they both had these very intense moments in their stories as we played along with them, NPCs, that they really stuck in our heads, and we all fell in love with those characters. They felt as close to a party member that an NPC can, really, I think.
Yeah, I think, like, certainly, I think we've all played at tables where NPCs are very much just like they're solving for a need, or they exist just for story.
And I make those still.
Yeah.
They definitely, you need non-player characters that aren't terribly important or aren't necessarily very interesting but serve a clear purpose. Sometimes your players need to go pick up basic supplies in a boring town, and you don't need it to be a long RP session. And sometimes that's useful to have those. They solve this one problem. We never reference them again, but they existed. Yeah,
but like, we had a session in the home campaign where Cestus fell. She failed a dex save, and she fell and broke a leg. And I remember it being like an entire thing. Like it like almost halted this, like, because we all reacted so viscerally, even though like technically this isn't a person behind this. This is a character in this story that we're collectively making together. But like, it mattered, and it mattered so much.
She was in a volcano, which kind of adds to the stakes.
Right.
We did blow up that volcano.
You did, in fact, erupt Mount Jarl Scream.
I'm very excited to do, like, insane things like that, like build bombs and
It's that need of an
Whatnots.
NPC too, because we knew that we could just leave Ceastus there on the floor with a broken bone and leave, and we would have been fine. But us as players had developed that attachment, and we were like, "There's no, we're not. You're not going to make us sacrifice an NPC to get out of here a little bit faster."
She was willing to just have you go.
right.
Yeah,
I know,
she
and that
was-
only makes you feel worse.
Go on without me.
Yeah, no, not going to happen.
And not to spoil, I know we'll talk Delilah later, but one of the things about Delilah was at one point there was a mystery of we knew she had a love interest, but figuring out who that love interest was.
You did. You snooped in her diary at one point.
I should have brought that. It's just outside. I do have Mr. Book still. So Elle has referenced her journal Mr. Book 2 because Delilah canonically had Mr. Book being her journal that she kept.
It was really sweet when
It
you
was-
told me that you wanted to do that for Elle.
I mean, Matthew wrote the whole thing. Like, it's printed. I still have it.
Yeah.
We-
It still comes up a lot.
We'll keep we're like as we've
It's
kind
a
of been
beloved
alluding to.
artifact.
We in the future we're going to talk a little bit more about who Delilah, now Delilah Arundel, is. As they had a very interesting, she had a great story going on behind her. But what we can say is there was a session where I had printed out, unbeknownst to the players, about 15. Is that fair? 15
It's like
page.
15 pages.
15-page diary cataloging her adventures from her point of view with the Guardians, of which she was a founding member. And we had some emotional times at the table together.
That was a crying session.
And I saw it in chat. I would definitely agree. It's exactly like falling in love with a book character. Where like you don't want to put the book down. You don't want something bad
That's
to
a great
happen
point.
to them. We spent. And the other thing is, in books, you know that their story is told, and I do the escapism all the time with books, where I like don't try to think ahead because I don't want anything bad to happen to these characters. And I'm like, with this, it's like we had so many opportunities where we could have or almost did lose these characters, and it was a direct cause of our actions. So it is that feeling of that book character, and also the ability to have some agency over their story as well, to a degree. Maybe we could help them, or maybe we fail them in some way. And so that was one of the things that I think we all kept in mind with these, I'd say, these closer guardians, these closer NPCs that we traveled with was, oh, we could really ruin this for some people.
I mean, the thing that defined the Guardians was that they had a dagger that's called the Arundel dagger, which is still in our logo.
Yeah.
Yes, so the actual Stories to D4 logo, which you can see actually on YouTube and Twitch, here,
the profile image.
somewhere below us, in that profile image, that little dagger with the 2 rings is the sigil of Elilier's house. And we all talked about this. This was before we actually talked a long time ago about what we would want to use to kind of unite our channel. And for all of us, our first campaign together was just such a big motivating force. And House Arundel, though you're playing a character of it, is a big, important aspect of the lore. And Clella, I actually want to talk a little bit about one of Clella's roles here outside of the campaign here at Stories to D4. You helped me actually a lot with our world building, keeping everything, not so much the generation, but very much helping me with making sure I'm being consistent. So if I talk about an event that happens at a certain point in history, you helped me lay out timelines, family lineages, and generally make sure I don't say something that completely makes no sense.
Yeah, putting that history degree to use. But that actually started before I was even at the table.
Yes, we worked together before we played D&D, and
Yeah.
you were helping me even then.
Because we talked about structures to acquire nobility, and I think we ended up talking about how it's a very specific French thing from early modern Europe, but that actually was part of what got me interested in playing at the table. And so when we got to the table and they got the opportunity to talk about the world and what it was like and what makes sense, and it was okay, well, let's talk exports. Let's talk the structure of the economy.
Yes, and that's
my bread and butter at the end of the day.
There's obviously a lot more into it now, but actually Eltz itself, the very setting for the current campaign, exists to a degree because a long time ago, the Guardians of the Silver Dawn, 2 of their members became what are known as Blades, powerful, the greatest heroes of a nation who protect the king, who protect the crown, who protect the kingdom. And as becoming blades, they received a tattoo made with prismatic ink.
Yeah.
And I had to explain where that came from, this powerful magical item that improved their strength and gave them special abilities. And so I put a mark on my map and pointed. It comes from here. It comes from the Kingdom of Elts.
And let's roll it back again, because I don't want to let this go. 5 protectors of a kingdom, 5 of the top protectors of the kingdom, and again, one of them was a bard. I want to repeat, a protector of a kingdom.
Another one was
Did you hear
your sister.
Did you?
Right,
Where
it
did
was my
Victoria go?
sister.
All I hear is Finland.
Yeah, Finland keeps. That's the other hard thing for me too, is that I was in this character's brain almost every weekend for 3 years. So I'm like,
Could we put? We actually have Finland's art. Can
Done
we
by
put that
Phil.
on the Twitter at some point?
Yeah, we have Finland art from Phil, who did our current character art
Yes,
as well. He did the Finland art, and we're coming back for all of it. We love your
That's
art.
why we have that
Yeah.
art. Is actually Phil did such an incredible job on Finland and later Ibra that we
Yeah.
actually went and received the same art. Used the same artist for our later commissions for Stories to D4.
Yeah, but it was kind of fun too, because even in the last campaign, we kind of already knew what was coming up. We knew Elts was going to be a factor, and my character had to go to Elts for something, and we all just said, okay, I'm going to teleport to Elts and teleport right out whenever I'm done doing what I need to do.
Because we didn't want to know anything.
This
We
was
didn't want to
at-
know anything.
This was at the point of the campaign where you all had met with multiple gods and were Connor. We talked about this when we had Connor on Footnotes, where Connor had already soloed a adult red dragon.
That was
You were
right.
mighty powerful adventurers at that point, and so teleporting across the continent to attune to an item at a magic temple wasn't a huge deal to
Right.
you at that point.
I was casting Wish to teleport. So I stayed there.
I
for
had
a night.
multiple-
You say that, but like there was times that we teleported even like late campaign, like for when we teleported to that big battle encampment, that was on accident. We ended
Right.
up on the top of a mountain because I rolled badly.
It was
like
the first time that you actually that
Twice.
it mattered a lot.
One time we
time
ended up in the ocean.
That was bad. Don't teleport into the ocean.
Which I was like, is this my dreams? Like
But yeah, no, the existence of Elts being something that was like just a spot on the map. Again, once we knew we were going to be going into a second campaign and going into Elts, we were like, no, we don't want to actually know anything. Like, we're just gonna, if we need to go there.
There is a session from my previous campaign in Elts that never happened, as they never actually ended up traveling there.
Right. We were like, okay, I don't want to go in with any prior knowledge. Like, whatever you're willing to give us that our characters would know, but I don't want to go as a 20th level adventurer, 19th level adventurer, and find out all this information about this place as that 20th level adventurer, and then go in as a second level adventurer.
That's so sweet.
And like already as a player know it, because I want to discover it during the game. And I don't know if we would have been like crazy interested in really digging into Elts without knowing it. So I just said I'm not going to personally.
Huh.
I mean, that's also a thing that just makes me think of like that was something I know I was really looking forward to in this campaign was we spent a lot of the first campaign and like this is not a complaint but we spent a lot of campaign exploring a continent, getting to know its different places and its cultures.
You were definitely travelers for a long time.
We went to Minshima, we went to the Barox Empire, we like spent so much time in Issel, like we had our
You had an arc in Arvondor, the plane where the gods of the elves exist.
Yeah.
Like technically Ibra had grown up in the Settled Dominion, like though like it didn't exist when we first started playing, so that came later. But in this campaign we got to go in knowing like we're going to focus on a single place and get to know it so super well. And a place that we even had like a base city, New Calworth, and like we didn't necessarily know, I would think, that location as intimately as we'll know else by the end of this campaign. Or I assume so.
That's a great point, Clella.
Because if you think about it too, we were all still on the same continent. We just had been to the southern country a little bit, but spent most of our time in the northern country on that continent. And so now we're in a southern country, past a southern country. Like, so there's some weird stuff for us as players coming into the same place that we kind of tread the ground a little bit. We're a couple miles away from some places that we've been, really. I think Mistholm's not that far away.
You actually, one interesting thing, and I actually saw that Jake was here with us in the Twitch chat, so I wanted to mention something kind of exciting. The first arc that Ibra joined us in our previous campaign actually was visiting somewhere that Silas grew up in, known as Caldeem.
I did not make that connection.
Yes.
Caldella.
Well, we'll talk a
You
little bit
had
more about
already.
later.
That was before me.
And we'll
joining.
We'll
Yeah.
talk
But-
a little bit more about those things later. Because I know a lot of people here have
we
lots
could-
of questions.
We could talk about the 3 years of the Guardians for
Yes,
like hours.
we do.
Yeah, we could.
At some point, that might be something fun we might do. Is just chat. Maybe we'll make something that we can explain a little bit of that story that happened in the past, or maybe you'll encounter one of the many statues or bards singing songs of the Guardians of the Silver Dawn. Clella, in addition to helping me with lore, you've also been invaluable when it comes to my homebrew development here. And so, as many of you here in chat know, we actually have Clella playing the homebrew class I've been working on, known as the Magus, or, depending on who you ask, the Magus.
So I actually want to talk about how we got to the idea of that,
Please.
which was, I think it was it winter 2019?
I believe so.
Yeah, that we did a Pathfinder campaign. It was like around like the holidays. And we decided to play a bit of Pathfinder because we had been talking about what system are we going to use, because we knew we were going to do, eventually the first campaign would come to an end and we were going to do another one for sure.
And by Pathfinder, in this instance, we're referring to the first
Yeah.
edition of the game.
Yeah. And we had those characters, which we only played for a little bit, but we played sisters at that point.
Yeah, we were sisters then.
Yeah.
We can't help that has some relation now.
Yeah. Which was very fun and very different because we were just picking up like Ibra and Fiddlin at that point. So we're like, we're going to pause on that and go and play
Stop dating,
siblings.
yeah.
Yeah. And I tried the Pathfinder Magus at like really
Yes.
low level. And I was completely new to Pathfinder where I kept being like, I want to roll a charisma
It's a
check.
hard
And-
class to play.
Yeah, I had never played Pathfinder. I had to learn that I could just take one step and then do things. But I did learn it. And I remember being like, oh, I'm so worried. What if I don't like love Magus? Like, what if I'm not interested in bringing it into 5e? Because like that was definitely a possibility.
And
But it was,
it was a good call on your part.
yeah, but it was so much fun to play. Like, it made me like interested in like trying other classes, or other systems, because I mostly have 5e experience. But also like I was like, I would love to see this in the system I'm super comfy with, that I know the best, and that I'm like more used to like flexing in, so to speak, I guess.
One of the only reasons I was comfortable having you playtest and now actually in our campaign use the Magus classes, your grasp of 5e is incredibly strong. And so let's talk a little bit about the Magus class itself, because some people might not be familiar with what this concept is. It is a sort of, so I'll go over to kind of like the basics, but if you want to elaborate, please feel free.
The elevator pitch is always like an arcane paladin.
It is very much. It
Yeah.
is, in a lot of ways, it's got a lot of similarities with that martial magic, but you're ditching the divinity and the oath of a paladin for studiousness and arcane magic.
Yeah, which I came from playing a wizard, so like wanting to play with someone who, like, and I never got tired of playing like a wizard.
You put down half of your spell book and picked up a sword.
Yeah,
is the
basically.
simplest way.
Which is funny because we talked about Blade Singer at one point, and I was like, I wanted something just a little bit more different, and it may just like hit that spot.
So you're not level 3 yet.
Not yet.
But I want to talk a little bit about kind of a sneak peek. Eventually, we'd love to get my Magus homebrew into your hands. But let's talk about just a couple of the features you get from 1st to 3rd level. Just that kind of sneak peek, give them a taste. And so far, we've seen a few abilities.
Yeah.
The big one we've been seeing is called Weapon Burst. And do you want to take this away from me?
Yeah, so Weapon Burst was something that we had seen. Can I say that? Like that we had seen a bit of in a
You can talk
previous
about
campaign.
You can talk about Delilah as much as you want.
Yeah.
I was just saying the specific trauma with Delilah. We'll ignore that one.
Yeah. But because Magus had been tested a tiny bit by Delilah, Elle's
Delilah, Elle's
mother.
mother.
I can say that. That's not a spoiler.
Yeah.
One of Elle's mothers, Delilah in this case, was an NPC and she was based off of Magus, and I used her as a very early form of testing for this.
I would run in combat because that was one thing that I really liked that we did was our main NPCs we traveled with. We were given an NPC stat block, and one of the players controlled them. So we had an NPC named Behold, and Connor would use his stat block.
You called me?
There was some times we either had Cesis or Delilah or both, and so some of us would run those sheets, and I loved running the Delilah sheet. I will tell you right now, I had so much fun in combat.
Delilah,
with the
okay,
NPC version.
Your
too.
moms are really cool. Like,
They're
both
really
of them
very, very
awesome.
cool.
But Delilah was way more fun to play than Cesis.
I mean, Weapon Burst was so cool. So if we were getting into the actual mechanics of Weapon Burst, I could add at this time a D4 of a type of damage. I don't know why that word escaped my brain, but I could do.
So you elemental. You get to
an
grab some
elemental type of
damage.
Force is not an option.
Force is not an option.
Yeah.
At her current level.
But fire, lightning.
And so
etc.
this sort of comes back to, if you look at a lot of what players enjoy getting magically, there are two sorts of kind of really enjoyable items, depending on what kind of player you've talked to. And they tend to fall into utility, so abilities that let you do something that isn't necessarily fighting, but also players often enjoy rolling dice. Connor will definitely speak to this when we have him here next. Loved getting weapons that gave him additional dice. Mm-hmm. And so the weapon burst feature allows the magus to roll that additional die with a type of elemental magic. And so we've seen Elle primarily enchanting her weapon with a form of lightning. So there's a little spark running along her blade. And it means every attack you're getting that little bit of a bonus, but it's not permanent. So it's not as strong as a flame tongue or a frost brand or any number of weapons that add magic dice. How's it feeling? Do you want to?
I mean, I like it. Yeah, it's very fun to be like, I'm gonna do a thing, and then now every time I swing my sword, that thing happens for a minute. Which, like a minute, I think if you're newer to 5e, you're like a minute. It's like nothing, but that's like rounds and rounds of. It's 10 rounds.
I want to say we had 4 so I ran a 20th level campaign, 1 to 20. And I think we had 4 combats ever be longer than a minute.
Yeah,
and that's with
rare.
The only exception that I'm not really counting were combats that weren't in the normal round. So like a massive battle that took place over 6 days, you can't run that in initiative.
Yeah.
And I would say even like combats that take 4 rounds, 5 rounds to complete. If you think about that, you could talk about 30 seconds of combat, but in game, like, that's fast, right? Real world, 2 hours later, and you're still in combat, because combat can be one of those slower parts of Dungeons and Dragons,
I'm a big proponent that that 6-second concept for a round. Now, obviously, when it comes to things that have time limits, so like spell descriptions, you should absolutely not shortchange your wizard on casting haste. But when it talks about, so assuming you don't have any time-based effects, I actually find that as you progress, it may be worth increasing the amount of times that round has. So you can talk about how the wizard battled the Baelor as they fell down the chasm for hours and hours. Those sorts of things let players really feel, badass, to be honest.
Well, my solution to that would just be take all the time-based things and turn them into rounds. If you really want to stretch out the length of your combat, say it takes a minute, so that's 10 rounds. So maybe your rounds now are going to be 5 minutes long, but you just say, hey, I'm not going to... If you're only getting to do one actual turn of actions per character, even if it's 10 minutes, if you really wanted to, you could just say, okay, you get 10 rounds, whatever the time is I apply. And that could cause problems, potentially. But that, again, would be a DM to player kind of conversation.
I think it really changes depending on, the scale and level. Once you get to higher level, it feels like your turns are probably a lot longer. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But also, like you referenced, when you're doing mass battle, we referenced Kevril, Connor's previous PC, battling a red dragon. That was something where he was fairly certain, he was going to win the hell out of that one because
the party was present for his solo duel with an adult dragon.
Yeah, 12
and
seconds.
They watched.
12 seconds in D&D time.
Yeah, but I definitely think that it was very understood that the flavor you can flavor it, flavor is something that exists in D&D for reasons and should be used.
So, continuing down just with this, with our little mage's sneak peek, we have two features that are kind of tied together: your arcane pool and, of course, spell combat. These are, as Clella has put it before, I believe in session 2 you said, I'm going to do the thing. And what this means, the arcane pool, for those of you familiar with Sorcerer, is very similar to sorcery points. So it is a pool of a font of magical power that you can access. And as she levels, there will be different ways to gain for Elilia various forms of abilities. Right now, what you can do is spell combat.
The thing.
It's the thing, and
Yeah.
in this instance, that is essentially a limited form of the quickened meta magic. You are able to, as Elilia, expend some of your arcane points in order to turn a spell from an action to a bonus action. But because the Magus is very much a combat-focused and more limited form of the wizard, rather, those spells that you quicken are limited to those that require an attack roll, either melee or ranged. And so you end up having a lot of these, almost a smite-like quality as an arcane caster.
They definitely feel like the Magus' smite. But
Yeah.
I know, like, it's nice to feel like the thing is, I think it adds a lot of flavor to Magus because I love having resources.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love resources, like having gotten used to like portents and things like that, and always having a bard around, so you have to track your inspiration.
Yes.
Was used to tracking resources, and so I love that. That's a mechanic I like. So arcane pool and the option to just go I've weapon burst, I've ignited my blade, but I'm gonna give it some extra oomph. And then make this is your big swing.
At next level, once you get that final third level, because presumably,
final.
I mean, Elle could die. Could be her last level.
I've actually decided that I can't die. So.
Oh well, we'll talk about that in the future.
2 against 1. Elk
We
can't
did
die.
have-
Wow,
you?
5 against 1. Every time I try to come kill your characters, you come with a whole posse of friends.
Yeah.
They no, we don't like it.
Don't do that.
So coming from the original Pathfinder character that Clella played, there is another feature that Elilia will gain in one more level, known as Spell Strike. And essentially what this does is allow, similar to Weapon Burst, where magic is coursing within her weapon, Spell Strike actually allows the spell that is cast to be, rather than making an attack roll, be imbued into the blade. Which imbuing, that sounds like there's a whole complicated mechanic, but it's essentially as simple as the next time Elle hits with that weapon successfully, it does the weapon's normal damage in addition to the effect of the spell that she imbued. So take Shocking Grasp, which is going to be your primary go-to for a while, deals additional damage to that is lightning based. And so once you've hit 3rd level, you can do your Spell Strike, Spell Combat, quicken a Shocking Grasp, and then strike someone with it. Doing a lot of damage.
I do have a question about that
course.
because we've had a little bit of exposure to Pathfinder at the table. For the Magus and Pathfinder, that is definitely the full round action is you give the weapon the attack and you attack with it, spell, and the weapon attack go off. Does this consume a bonus action or is this purely an action base?
So spell combat, which consumes arcane points, because it's very important whenever you're developing homebrew. And I actually sit with 2 of our DM friends and 2 people who've previously DM'd for me. Yeah. And so their feedback on homebrew and just general design has been very helpful as I've learned and grown as a DM. What happens is that to do the thing, expending arcane points allows you to quicken a spell and so the quickening the spell is what consumes the resource. Imbuing a spell into Elle's blade actually does not consume a resource, including an action economy resource. But let's take the general example. There is an angry orc coming to attack Elle, and Elle spends some arcane points to quicken a Shocking Grasp.
Okay.
Imbuing that weapon doesn't take anything. Elle then uses her action to swing.
Right.
This already is kind of what the action economy would be without Spell Strike. If you hit, It's very simple. You've hit, you've now done some damage, and Shocking Grasp. Spell Strike didn't do anything extra. The big bonus that Spell Strike gives you is when Elle misses, Elle can choose to concentrate, maintaining the spell for up to a minute.
So
I
if you
guess it's
use
like a leveled smite.
Okay, so if you use the
Smite
Quicken-
spells are an inspiration, absolutely.
So to fully understand, if you use, because I haven't played so much with this, again, I played the NPC version.
Of course.
So if you use the bonus action Quicken version, you spend a point, and you hit,
The spell is expended.
the spell is expended, and you get the effect of the weapon in the spell.
Yep.
But then otherwise, you imbue the spell into the weapon, you don't hit, you keep the spell if you can concentrate.
Yep,
Yeah.
you're just holding on to a Shocking Grasp or a Vampiric Touch. And there might be some spells that you all haven't seen quite yet that may be created to make the Mage's class, just grease the wheel, work a little bit better as we go along. As there's a few gaps in the general spell list for attack roll based spells. Not many, as we try to limit how much homebrew we use at a given time, but some.
And across the board, these all still consume the same spell slot that you would use to cast a spell regularly.
Yeah. So like currently, it's more advantageous to use like a first level spell slot because I only have firsts. But eventually, it'll be nice because I can really rely on like how well cantrip spell,
Yeah. I'm familiar with the Pathfinder touch of fatigue into your thing so you don't waste a spell slot.
Yeah. I mean, I went from again a 20th level wizard to having 2 first level
it's
spell
hard.
slots, and I'm like, what do I do with these? Like, I can't cast wish.
It's hard to be a full caster but not have even 4 first level spell slots. What is this about?
It is true. High level play, you go from being able to visit your dead loved ones on a whim to the ability to maybe have enough magic to get over, like to climb a tree or to accomplish some relatively mundane thing.
Yeah. It's hard.
Before we talk about the end of last session, I actually want to take a moment here and thank our supporters here. As you can see below on the bottom of the screen, we have a subscriber goal, which during our last session, everyone was so helpful and we've made so much progress here. Thank you all to our supporters here on Twitch and on YouTube. And let's take a second here, and I just kind of want to really quickly shout out our subscribers who we've received. Your support is invaluable to our channel here. Should I grab this, or do you want me to hand this over to one of y'all?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to go through these real quick, and again, thank you very much. We have Zach Sim, Sly Diggs, Jen6903. We have It Was Me, Geo. We, of course, also have Orodreth and Pause61. We have Allison Starfox. Thank you so much, Allison. We have the Saddest Boy Senpai. And finally, the Bad Voodoo. Thank you all so much. It's your support that's going to help us continue to grow and improve our set, get some more miniatures for me to torment these fine players with. And
Play more games too.
Play more games. We'd love to in the future offer more games. We've talked about a certain one shot, which we hope pretty soon to be able to tell you about, and possibly even additional campaigns should we be able to accomplish this. And we really appreciate it. Oh, we have Silas's in the chat.
I love the Silas emote. It's so cute.
It's so cute.
Silas is the best boy in the campaign.
Silas
so
is
far.
such a... I will say this. I love all of your characters. I have noticed a distinct number of Silas stands.
Because
I mean, Silas did come in pretty hard for the best boy combo.
right, he really just came in there and said, "I'm an elephant man, but also like kind of goofy, sweet, but also like."
He just came in and laid the
good."
trunk on the table. I get it.
Which
Yeah,
is
he's
very
a good boy.
It's very fun, like compared to like Jake's
Other character that he
previous
played.
character, who was like a former enemy. Like
He was. So Jake played a player
Sharp.
character who was, and I'm
We
sure you'll learn
almost
about him in the
killed
future.
The first time we met him.
There was a primary group of antagonists in our in our last campaign, and Jake played a sort of escaped member of that villainous group.
Yes, to explain it very loosely, he was a former scientist
He was a scientist from a villainous
From a
organization.
villainous organization
Who
who
did
escaped,
bad science.
who did bad science.
His bad science was the motivation for, I would say, like the third quarter of
Yeah.
our campaign.
Because his other character was a little bit preoccupied at the moment, so he brought in a new one.
RB.
Sorry, guys.
Are we ready to talk about Oswald?
No.
Massive.
Wait, why don't we actually talk about like the deck of many things instead of the sad thing?
You want to talk about? Oh, so we could just talk about random magic items?
Yeah, give your players a deck of many things.
Can I have
lock
a deck of
up
many things right now?
No. So I will say, and I have two fellow DMs with me. I've heard many times the argument the deck of many things can ruin your campaign. I took that advice from many, admittedly more experienced and perhaps even more talented DMs than me, and I said bet. And so I threw not one but two decks at my players.
Because we ended up having three.
Three.
because we
Oh, were
collected
there three?
Because we collected two. It ended up being two at the end because we collected
Can
two
I-
pieces and put them
Can I
together.
TLDR our
It's,
experience with
let
many
me put it this way: the deck of many things ain't shit.
Okay, excuse me, sir.
My character became evil.
I had to compel her to use a wish on Ibra.
I got a wish for free and then had to use my wish to become not evil.
Yeah. Welcome to the
we
deck.
killed a
important
guy.
The important part
We
was
trapped like Grandrum in a crystal for
Yes,
canonically multiple years.
that's where Jake's
I
former
had a very
character
deep
went.
trust of the players that at the time who were at my table, and so I looked over what the possible negative effects were. They went as bad as essential various forms of death.
Yeah.
Destruction of magical items or the background resources, and the players were very serious when it came up, using the appropriate checks to understand the gravity of the situation. And I may be a bit silly about how I was saying it, but truly, the advice avoid using the deck of many things at most tables is fair. I was lucky to have a table that was very serious and for the most part, appropriately cautious with the deck.
You locked one in a box.
You did.
I did lock one in a box.
It was a fun opportunity to spend several months playing a lawful evil character and like learning to do lawful evil.
You did. You had to learn.
Or
to
sorry,
flex.
neutral evil. Not
You were neutral
lawful.
evil.
You had to
Neutral
flex
evil.
your role-playing chops.
Yeah.
And it is with this that we get to move into the trauma section. Massive spoiler warning. Oh, can I hit a spoiler button one day? Spoiler.
I was gonna say before we talk about spoiler button, we need something good for announcing subscribers because I want to give people like the credit and the joy, and the little clap's not enough. We're gonna have to come up with something. So
Do, 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 do,
no air horns
do.
are allowed in the studio.
We could get Jazz to like meow very sweetly. And
We should have brought the.
We should have brought the pets.
A cat is being acquired.
Is there?
No.
Wait, is there anybody in here?
There is one.
There is
It's
one.
a baby.
Oh, my child.
I would like to confirm in chat we have a Silas stan.
I'm a Silas stan. I'll admit it. I
mean,
love
yeah.
Silas.
Oh
you go,
my
Coco.
gosh! Can I have?
You want the cocoa?
Can I have the?
Yeah, of
Coco?
course. Here you go, Clella. I'm gonna take your drink away
Yes.
just temporarily.
Because Clella's drink will go flying. Coco has half a mind.
Are you having the same thing? Did you have the same thing as us, by the way, to drink, Victoria? We are all on Blue Moon tonight.
Not sponsored. Could be.
Not sponsored.
But,
Hey,
you know.
I am happy to shill. That is now canonical. So we'll, if you manufacture beer, let us know. Let us talk about the end of the festival. So the party got to play all sorts of festival games. Tests of I got her. Tests of strength.
Okay.
They were able to test of strengths. A challenge that involved a bit of witty thinking by our dear friend Connor, and even a disgusting refuse eating competition. I think is a fair
I didn't participate in that. So.
description of that. But
I bought my way out of it.
at the end of last session, Oswald stepped away for a little while, and as Victoria finishes her cup, I want to know a little bit more about how you're feeling. Do you want me to hand you your drink back?
I would also like to finish my cup.
Yeah, of course. Here you go.
My problem is in D&D there are these moments that you can get, and this is not actually a problem, but as you level up throughout D&D, the scale of play changes. You start out and you're trying to become maybe like a local town hero. Then maybe you get known by a region or an area. You start to put together a team, maybe a name. You
Maybe
go
meet a noble or two that you
Yeah,
get to
We're
know.
starting to become friends. with
Right,
the party.
we're at the phase of starting to become friends with people, and as you grow in D&D, your ability to face different challenges increases. So, at the end of our last campaign, we were winning war. We were trying to win a war. That was our entire growth to that point. Was we killed a god. That was the intent of the campaign.
We got 2 gods
To be,
killed.
Right.
yeah, well,
But the thing is, when you start out and you're playing low level and you hit these moments like the one that we had in session 3, the word that I was able to come with yesterday, finally came up with the word, it was helplessness.
Yeah.
And there's very few moments I can point to in D&D that, and like we've talked about this on the show before. I'm the gothic horror campaign person. I love the feeling of helplessness. And there's very few times in D&D that you really get that feeling of there's nothing I can do. And so for me, we hit that moment, we are walking through the streets, and I'm putting it together as we're going, and I'm like, something's not right. And then we see what's happening, and in my mind, the only thing I could think to do to protect all of us was just to run screaming for guards, because if we're caught there, we are toast. Like, we've done this. We're guilty. We snuck away during the festival. And it also, I felt so dumb, because afterward, it was like, oh, well, no shops are open during the festival. How did I not put that together during, I guess I'm too, rich to realize that people don't have their shops open during a festival. But that was the thing, is I just did not know how to, I didn't have anything I could do. If I were a higher level, if I had more access to magics, I'm sure there were things like, you get high enough level and you can do zones of truth and you can cast spells to see certain things. And I have some first level magic.
you can cast alarm a bunch.
I can cast a lot of alarm spells, but nothing that I have and nothing I could do could fix the problem that I was looking at. And that was a moment of, I'm not a hero. I need to go get guards who, like at some point in every D&D campaign, they're no longer, like, you were stronger than the guards, right? You can take a town of guards, that's no problem, eventually. But no, we had nothing we could do.
I mean, I think, like...
Well, you're going to have to at the start of session 4.
Yeah,
we
like,
are going to have to.
Kind of being there and, like, failing a wisdom save and having to... The beginning of a mystery is always really fun. And it's always really nice to kind of have no information. But, I don't know, I think this just makes me think of, like, we had very developed characters. We were incredibly powerful. To not be there when, like, the big thing happens was very, like I genuinely had no clue it was coming. Like, oh, we're gonna go check up on him. Like, did not think, like, oh, we're gonna find him, like, Mick not there. And didn't even think about it because I was like Elle was busy being in her feelings or whatever about like the whole pinecone thing. So I don't know, it's very odd to be in a situation where, I think if we had been in, not even just like Ibra, like, but like most of my past PCs, the PCs I like played recently, I had more like, was used to having resources and being able to go, okay, what can we do to see what happened here? We can't even cast detect magic,
I can, but
can.
it's gonna take me a little bit.
She can.
I can cast detect magic, but here's the thing too, like,
I think Gwynwyn did, in fact.
yeah, Gwynwyn did.
She did, but it's like, it just feels, the power level was so apparent in that moment when you realize that there are things that can kill you and kill your character, and you're sort of beholden in this moment rather than having the sort of control you get used to as you get to higher level.
And I will say this. Now, I'll admit, as a dungeon master, everyone makes plans. There are different forms of DM prep. And I had this idea that the party would perhaps go and search out Oswald and find what had happened. Now, I didn't plan for, say, Elle to step aside and go write in Mr. Book. But I really want to stress to dungeon masters, if you have this idea of a potential what could happen as like a scene, it's okay to just step out of the way of your players and let that happen. I generally plan places and events. So I planned... oh yes, if Oswald is able to go to the Low Prism, he's going to have a bad time. Right. But like the idea of this whole scene where everyone walking in and seeing this all at once, that's a guess as to what might happen, but it's very important to let you guys have a separate time there.
I was going to do something way different myself when we were there. It took all of my self-control not to misty step to the second floor. I have to tell you that like my impulse still is that I want to go, and we were so
Rush into
reckless.
danger. Yeah.
We were so reckless before. I mean, we had no self-control, and I'm not.
You were exhausted.
I was literally exhausted. Yeah.
Yeah, you had a point of exhaustion.
I was not only just feeling the low level, feeling like I couldn't do a ton of that moment, failed the save, was genuinely compelled to put myself in danger, but going like I am exhausted. It's the end of the night. Elle had a rough night the night before. Like, she is not in a space.
Madame Gallo really messed with your head.
Yeah, that was actually, not to get off subject, but that was a fun exercise in like early RP with Elle and who she is, which I think like
I feel like I'm starting to really know who you all are.
Yeah.
Like it does take characters should
sessions,
never
for
come
sure.
fully formed.
The two moments for me that were the most impactful, one of them we can't really talk about because it was a character moment for Thorn, Laurentius's moment, gave me actual goosebumps. I loved that conversation. I won't get into
I'm gonna
it.
DM here. No, we can absolutely talk about how you all feel about
Oh my
Laurentius's
goodness.
moment, because we're gonna have Connor again in a few weeks, and
Yeah.
now that he's not here to defend himself,
Oh my
why
goodness.
not?
Oh my goodness.
We can praise
So
him while he's not here to go.
excited.
No,
So
I'm
good.
I'm okay. He's incredible. Connor, well, he does often play more muted characters that aren't as over the top. They are always intensely satisfying during their
Yes.
RP moments.
Yes, every moment, because in the past campaign too, I mean, he was the paladin, he was the baron, I was the bard, and we really, like, our characters really meshed well together. And so I was really curious to see, I'm playing a high-end wizard, you're playing the sorcerer, what are we going to do? Like, how are we going to interact?
He is very dumb.
And I am loving it. And then that moment happened where we're not part of the conversation and we're just like off doing our own thing. And he's having this really intense conversation and sharing all of this stuff. One, I was surprised that we didn't have to leave the room. I really am glad that I was there because that moment was just so strong, like a very early, strong character moment that hit me even harder whenever the second moment happened at the end of the campaign, or the session, sorry, not campaign, end of the session, where I'm a human now, I can't see in the dark, and I'm in this situation trying to rely on these new strangers to explain what they're seeing to me.
Yeah.
You had to rely on other people, and you're not playing the most... Okay, your character is trustworthy. Your character is not necessarily trusting.
Right, and these were two strangers, but there was so much weird happening, and so much weird that had already happened since being here. Man, though, Connor, major props. That was a beautiful
absolutely.
moment. It's so good. I
was
had
very
to say it. It's so good.
Yeah, so it seems there might be something going on with his relationship between Dunsmith or perhaps Walnut Hill. I don't know. I'm getting conflicting reports.
Yeah. All
what-
we know is that he says he's from Walnut Hill, and I have no reason to interrogate him on that fact.
I do.
So, well, you two did a thing where you were like, I'm going to tell you all my secrets. I'm not there.
I mean, Thorn is a very suspicious person. And
Elle doesn't seem to have emotional, personal space.
Right.
Yeah, no, she is someone who came from
Trauma,
everyone.
please.
I mean, I will pay my trauma tax later. She comes from someone who I just the whole session was really fun to explore Elle because she comes from people who were very open and honest and forward about everything. There weren't secrets. You didn't hide anything. It's the idea of someone not sharing these things to her has to mean like they are suspicious in some way because why wouldn't you? And she's just used to, despite the fact that I think like Esmini is not forward with necessarily everything, but Elle has no reason to distrust Esmini, and in fact just
Every reason to
takes-
trust.
Yeah, every reason
her.
to trust her and take what she says at face value. I don't know. This session was really fun for me to do. Out like doing that, having downtime where I think Elle is a character. I don't think this is spoilers to say, but like
No, you're allowed to talk about your character. I don't
who
mean
is
to.
Very used to having training or studying or like noble stuff.
Would we like to talk a little bit about where
Yeah,
you're
we
allowed?
can talk about it. I mean, we're the perfect people to talk about it.
Right.
Yeah.
So Elilie and Ismini actually come from the same, not location, but they come as a package deal. to a degree. Ismene, as we've discussed before, I believe with Connor, comes from a noble family, House Callister, that serves the elven House of Summer. And Ismene is one of the few remaining summer elves. Oh, Ililie. So sorry, I said my name wrong.
Ismene
That'll
is a
happen.
Ismene is the human.
Yes, Ismene, of course, is a human, but with House Arendral, they are one of House Summer. House Rin, House Summer, which experienced a horrible event in the past known as the Desolation of Summer. And don't worry, we're not going to go too in-depth onto all of our lore, but...
Just from the words, we have summer elves, and a thing happened called the Desolation of Summer. Not a great
There
event.
aren't a lot of summer elves.
There's not very many left.
If you encounter elves with the root word Rin in their name, generally speaking, Ismene is likely to know who that being is. At the very least, historically, as Ismene herself being one of the, not the first heir, but one of the heirs to House Callister, has been assigned to the Arendral family to protect their next generation and ensure the continuation of the House of Summer.
Which is why I was very freaked out when you went unconscious in the sewers.
I cannot believe I'm the first person to go down. I did not see that coming.
Despite you tending to play lower durability characters, you don't go down to the same proportion that you are physically more frail with your PCs.
Yeah. I do think I went unconscious more, and we had other people die more than the wizard did in the last.
Because you were on front lines all the time with your last character.
I was front lines. I was a frontline bard. It was fun. I love it. I would say also to all my bard friends, real quick, if you're playing
my bards in the back.
To all my bards, I would say though, if you have the ability to. And you're playing in person, handing out physical dice for your bardic inspiration.
I always loved that.
And you had special dice for
I had glitter dice to hand out to people whenever I gave out bardic inspiration because people always forget about it, and it's one of your core class things that you get is giving out bardic inspiration. And different flavors of bard, people can do different things with. I was a lore bard, frontline lore bard.
I mean, how many times did people reach for D20 and go, oh yeah, inspiration, and grab that glittery die?
And I'd admit that I was doing a lot of, I felt like I was just nagging people, going like, oh, hey, remember, you have bardic inspiration. Oh, make sure you roll that too. But it is something that if you have the ability to do something as a reminder for people. I know also that if you're playing online, a lot of sheets have the ability to check a box for inspiration, so working on that with the table.
There is an option on D&D Beyond has something for that as well.
An inspiration box of some kind, because it is one of those things that's forgotten. To all my other bard players out there, or future bards, because everybody should play a bard. Yeah. Forget wizards.
I've never played a bard.
They're good.
It's a class I haven't touched yet.
Well, we are working on some stuff in the background. Maybe we'll see you bardically inspire others in the future.
Me? A utility class?
Ooh.
That's true. You do tend to play more blaster type characters than
I do.
magic.
I mean, I played a wizard that was like, I'm going to get in the dragon's mouth and trust my boots to save me.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to talk a little bit about why Ililie has left? Do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Why she left?
Why are you adventuring? Are you comfortable? You don't have to.
Yeah,
I love these people that are watching our videos right now, but if you want to keep secrets from them.
I don't think we're going to get into it too much, but I will say, I think what is fun to share is that Elle has never had a reason to leave home before.
No.
She was super comfortable, constantly
Her moms are
learning.
great.
Her moms are great. She's super rich. If you have no reason to leave home, why would you become... it doesn't matter who your parents were. If your moms are famous adventurers,
money
good
and
for
status
them.
And love is all at home.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she's homeschooled. She chose not to go to, a full, academy and instead, stay and learn from her parents. But I think... making that choice is very interesting. Not just
Absolutely.
Why do we give Elle a reason to be here, but just she chose to leave, and it's fun because I think we talked about previously the night she did leave, she left from perhaps not the most prepared circumstances. Semi-prepared.
The reason that you lack an abundance of magical items or a larger sack of coin
or a moonblade.
Yes, you did not, in fact, steal your mother's moonblade from the mantle. I wonder if would you like to find that someday?
I mean, yeah, I would like to complete my Mulan journey and steal my family sword. Yeah.
Cut your hair.
Cut my hair, steal the sword, put on the armor, let's go. but when we left fairly suddenly from an event that wasn't at the manor.
Right,
And
you actually were visiting the House of Summer in its Solstice Citadel, and Ismini, you were present for that event. This is all some before the campaign building
Session
sort of
Zero
things.
esque stuff.
Yeah.
And I love that we talked about this, and the organic decision that we kind of came to was that Elle did not necessarily share her plans fully, but despite that, who was waiting at the gate but Ismini with a pack already in hand.
Yeah.
Your
Elle was
guardian, in a way.
Yeah.
Elle was leaving, so I left.
I'm really excited to find out a little bit. I'm excited to find out a little bit more in future sessions, as you all actually have some secrets from me that I'm kind of excited to talk about in the future once they stop lying and keeping secrets from me. I really
I'm trying
appreciate
so
that.
hard to get everyone to tell me all of their secrets verbatim.
That's true. If you want to keep pestering our other players to tell their entire backstory,
It's just, I think you're lying.
That's more
Tell me what's
content
going
for
on.
Footnotes. I may make a short set of notes for this, but if you want to tell people more things, that's my job much easier.
See, the thing is, though, is that you are also keeping secrets from us.
Yeah.
I deny everything.
DMs have secrets.
They have the most secrets.
Yeah, they have the most. I think that you have more secrets.
I feel like now we didn't end up needing this. This is just a map of the world we know. You cannot have that. But there's like this entire continent right here that we've never talked about, and it's not a secret. It's tough love. I'm gonna go with tough love is what that is.
Is the bottom continent labeled in this version?
But that is Barbada.
I was like, I know that continent.
Yeah.
I will correct the record. I have asked about the continent. I have not been given any information.
I'm gonna say it though now. I'm gonna say I am so glad that you joined the table, Clella, because
Absolutely.
when you came on, just like you're a pleasure to play with. It's so much fun. You bring fun characters. You have fun moments with your character and other characters. You're good at the game. It's great. Like you know what you're doing, but you also ask some of the greatest questions I have ever heard like, what's up with those clouds? And that became an entire thing.
I mean, that was really the main hook and I guessed it right.
You did
the thing
guess
is,
it
I guessed
right.
it right. And
But
then Matthew said,
I had a
no,
secret.
it's not that.
I had a secret in my campaign, which we'll talk about in the future, which Clella had not yet been a player.
Right.
When they suggested a solution, and their solution was correct.
Yeah. And the thing is also, but
They had not, to clarify, I really need to reiterate this. I had a secret for my players, and someone who was not a player but worked alongside me solved the puzzle.
yep.
But here's the thing is, I said, I won't say the secret, but I said, is it this? And Matthew looked at me dead in the eyes and said, no, it's not.
Your
And
fan is claiming you're number one.
Yeah, that's because Jen is always right.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair.
Jen is sort of the best.
Yes.
But it's so good to have somebody at the table because everybody brings something slightly different to a table. And you were asking questions that none of us would have ever thought to ask, and has brought so many good moments to the games to either get more information about the world because you're really digging into the world. I'm kind of like, I was very focused in campaign 1 about like the who's who. Like I really want to know
was
who's
so
who.
fun.
Victoria's very focused on the individual NPCs
Yep.
a lot of times. Clella, well, you don't. I'm not saying you lack that. You end up focusing a lot on the
Exports.
culture and okay, the export's a bit of a meme, but the
but
culture and
yeah.
the history of various places. It's due to you that I have a timeline. I have a timeline that goes back more than 50,000 years.
Yeah, because you have asked about our calendar versus other calendar.
I mean,
I
it's
have-
just important to know what calendar they're operating within because different we've had this discussion.
We have.
But that's why I need Victoria to not only be our resident note taker.
I take some notes.
I mean, it would be like,
Ooh,
what
I
did
can
we
put
get
you
in
both
that
on the
chest?
spot.
And she would go like, pull a sheet out, full things. And also, we've met this person.
Yeah.
And then Victoria would be like, this is them, this is their significant other, this is their child, this is their family line.
Now, I get to put you both on the spot because this is not on the notes that I showed you I had for today.
I know.
Do you think we will be seeing either of you behind that screen over there in the future?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. Yes.
Can I-
100%.
May I, with giving no information about the actual one-shot itself, refer to a one-shot that we plan, an event that we plan on doing?
Go ahead.
I can officially announce this in the footnotes, though we will, of course, update the Twitter as well on this. There is going to be a special game run this Halloween. That's Halloween 2021. Now, there's no hints. We're not letting you know if it's going to be Victoria or I running that particular session.
They know it's not me.
It's not.
Mostly because you
Clella,
said
we're
Halloween.
actually
I went.
We're just going to surprise you. You're going to run a session. No.
Let me pull out the 5 one-shot ideas I have.
We're going to have a game coming up here in the near future. We're going to be doing a little bit of tweaking based upon some feedback from subscribers and followers as we try to interact a little bit and figure out what you're interested in. But I think we have a good idea of what will end up happening this Halloween. And it might be a little bit spooky.
Does that mean I should come in elf ears or?
You were okay.
Oh.
You were always allowed to show up in elf ears. I'm just gonna blanket a statement there. You're good. Just show up in elf ears. It's okay.
Wait, let me see. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. I was gonna say.
Wait. If you have the elf ears, are the earrings gonna go like out here?
I don't know if I could. I don't know if I would re-pierce the fake
You
ear.
pierce the fake ears?
No, you put the fake ear over, and you can just get other things and put them in there, just whatever you want.
So I'm glad I never had to actually do Ibra. She has far too many piercings.
Yeah, that was also pretty fun. It's just like, hey, I'm a wizard, and I've got a belly
My
button
magic ball.
piercing.
Yeah, my magic ball is a septum piercing.
Yeah.
You did, and before. So I know this is a very small little thing, but actually, Clella, you referenced something that I think is very a good little DM tip. Now we don't have a fiddly rule this week,
Wow.
but I do have a bit of I'm going to say DM advice, and I know it's unsolicited, but I have you here. You were trapped. The advice
It's also fair.
is here for you. I had a player who wanted who was going to get a magic item. This magic item was essentially a divining crystal, so a seer's orb. But as a fun way to integrate that a little bit into their character, we actually, rather than just have this be a static object, we all know how, a fortune teller with a crystal ball or, a shaman or a person using that. We know what that looks like. We actually allowed you to integrate that into Ibra's design, having a piercing that the gem in it itself was the orb. So that mechanically changes nothing. We allowed you to make the orb go from a small gem to, 7-inch diameter sphere.
I always thought it was the belly button piercing.
There's
belly button
There's
pier-
a wild magic item.
Oh,
and then
okay.
there was a
crystal ball.
Ibra had a lot of ear and nose and belly button piercings.
That's where we had the famous winter outfit.
Yeah, the winter outfit that was just the crop top, and everything else was
it was like
winter
cut
gear.
it out.
I also advise you never dictate to your players what their outfits are like. You ask them, because if you are a DM and you're telling your players they're wearing a crop top, don't
do that.
Don't do
don't
that.
tell your players what they wear.
But we
Oh,
would
no,
like volunteer.
we
We'd be like,
did.
it's winter time now. Wait, we need an outfit, a canonical
I
outfit.
did tell them at one point, guys, we're changing seasons. It's time for a dress up montage.
Yeah, we did that. And we were discussing what these outfits from the gym would be, and they were all crop tops. We came across, they're all like.
I carried that to the end
there
of the
is, of course,
campaign.
the Aladdin sub-corollary,
Yeah.
which is specifically, if you dress up your party like genies, then everyone can have cute vests and crop tops.
Yeah.
But that is the only time.
But we all were like, no, we want the vests and crop
Yeah, we weren't even
tops.
sad. We weren't even like, where's our armor and stuff. We were like, oh, cool crop top. Like,
I integrated actually my armor. I throughout the entire campaign was building this like legendary set of armor. So like every downtime was me just working on this armor.
Yes, one of the rubies of Gorbarim built a legendary set of armor.
And the straps to hold the front and back pieces of the armor together were that outfit. So I integrated that crop top into my final, like, this is the piece.
Can I mention, this is actually one of my, this is something I'm very excited about. So the Jinn outfit, they had met a Ginny at one point, which was just a fun little short puzzle they had. But the material that they had was magic. And so because of the air enchantments on that gear, Victoria had an idea for her breastplate. So her breastplate, you got a front segment of armor, back segment of armor, but the straps on the top what they were was incredibly minor enchantment. I'm a huge proponent of if you can give your players minor magical effects that fit what they seem to look for, you really will enhance the player experience. In Victoria's case, being a dwarf, having a passion for mining and underground exploration, this little bar, the cloth that connected her breastplate, what it did was show the weather and sky on the surface. So if it was a bright, shiny day, it was giving off a soft bit of light. If it was thunderstorm, she would see that in the pattern of the actual fabric on your connecting bit of material.
Yeah. And that was kind of fun because it's the idea, because we talk about in fantasy a lot the low fantasy versus high fantasy and all the tiers in between. And the idea of magical items being so mundane, we also had the hat for Ibra.
Oh, that was one of my favorite things. And I did see the cat in the hat type comment.
We have to argue with someone's DM.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone should be allowed to wear a boisterous hat, and I think it's funnier if you have to duck anytime you go.
Yeah.
We'll put our first disclaimer. Clearly, any advice we give about DMing is to DMs and to
Personal
people who.
opinion only.
Yeah, we're talking about how we like to run games, and there's lots of ways to run games that we don't. However, as a fully meme explanation, how dare a DM not allow you to wear a cat in a hat, stripes included? That hurts me in my very soul.
I mean, we got to have where
I would have all NPCs make fun of you, though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They will
at
absolutely
least snicker.
What is
behind.
wrong with your hat?
Did you see that person with the hat
We
come
can-
through town?
We can make these decisions and be judged for them. And there's also the little things
Was
in
that
our
the new
world.
jester? Is that the new court jester? Why are they wearing a hat that's 3 feet tall?
Yeah.
If
And
you're
there's-
being hunted, just
there
you
is
see
something-
someone with a hat.
there is the stuff that doesn't need to. We're just gonna pass Coco around.
Yeah.
But we do.
We have a channel mascot.
Yeah, look at her. So cute. So cute. But no, there is that whole thing of oh no, this thing doesn't exist. But I love the super high fantasy of even to the point where it is mundane. So you know how we have the little coffee cup warmers? It's a little pad you can put your coffee cup on. Why doesn't a magical version of that exist for tea? A really nice tea house or something.
That
in
does
fantasy.
exist.
Exactly. Things that we can dream up because you can get into some of the systems that are edging closer to Victorian fantasy and kind of post-industrial revolution kind of fantasy too. But just for D&D itself, I love the cloak that Careful started out with that always moved in the wind, even though there was no wind.
Cloak of billowing, yes.
Cloak of billowing. I love things like that where there is no mechanical benefit to these items. They're just fun to have, and they flesh out the world so much.
The world is inherently magical, and there's, depending on your setting, but
Yes.
I mean, you brought up the
the world we
hat.
know is pretty high magic,
Yeah.
admittedly.
But Ibra's hat that was a gift from Finland, so there was a running joke that Ibra hated getting. She had a strength score of 6.
Yeah.
That she hated getting sweaty, but we were constantly in volcanoes and running and
Fighting fire-breathing dragons.
and fighting dragons, which are all very inherently sweaty activities. And at one point, Finland, during our big tournament arc, presented Ibra with this hat that constantly kept her not sweaty. Yeah, that was the moment there was oh.
I think I'm falling in love.
My version of flirtation with a magical hat works great every time.
So we're coming here right on the end, and I kind of had this idea, and depending on what everyone thinks here in chat, this might be a thing we'll do in the future. We're at time,
Okay.
but before we go, is there any part of Gren or of generally the world we know you want to just give a quick here's a look into our setting and a person, a place, an organization. Clella just made had a very massive emote. So what's up?
I always want to talk about the Consortium, the
Fundati
yeah, the
Consortium.
Fundati Consortium. Just because that was an idea that we worked on. So the origins of the Consortium actually go back to my first foray into DMing when I had very little understanding of Dungeons and Dragons, especially 5e. And I had an idea for an organization that called themselves the Watchers. And it was very specific to the setting that I did a really short campaign with actually a sibling and another friend. And it was
Play with your family if you can.
yeah, I mean, it was
great.
really fun, and it was definitely a fun way to start learning D&D. It ultimately was dropped. But I remember later we had been developing a PC of mine for a other home campaign that a few other folks was in that I was going to come and do like a session or two. And that was can I say her? That was a Rate Vigil is her name. And we ended up like I kind of shared this backstory with Matthew, and then we talked a bit, and it became the Consortium, which fundamentally became the organization that character belonged to. So I'll let you explain like the rest and the actual bits of the world, but like it was a fun thing of like what makes me love playing at this table so much was getting to be so involved in the world and knowing it so well, and being able to make suggestions and decisions, and really breathe a ton of life into PCs that we made, even if they were for a single session.
Yeah.
Because like you didn't just make like a random, not that there's anything wrong with making like just like this.
You
is
can
my
make Joe the
row.
mercenary. That's allowed.
You can make Joe the mercenary, but this is a character concept I've had forever, and this is a thing that I made on my own a long time ago that we're bringing into this world, which is very fun.
We're given the ability to help shape the world depending on our involvement or desire for involvement. Because I've also had characters that we did for one shots that I'm like, I don't really want to like dig into anything too much. I'm just going to throw this character together and play. And then others have been like, I want for my character in these 3 sessions to attempt to do something ridiculous.
Yeah.
So Arate and the Consortium are actually one of 2 times that Clella actually has helped me expand the world by creating a player character. So with the Consortium is a group of mages, warriors, scholars, and often actually librarians who they'll take their time and effort to aggregate magical knowledge, and with the Watchers specifically, of which Arate was one, work to protect the material plane from outsiders, from threats from outside the material world. So the most common things are things like demons and devils, powerful, evil outsiders. But in theory, actually, the Consortium and certain organizations and families that are in tangentially related to the Consortium work on binding and capturing or expelling those sorts of outsiders. But just to give another quick example, though I won't go too in depth, another time that Clella had to change characters, we actually developed a group known as the Shepherds, of which Quill is one. So I really, if you can, I love to work with organizations, so groups. They don't have to be formalized in your setting, but if for me as a DM, knowing that a person is with a group and why, and if they agree or disagree, really helps. Helps you create an NPC very quickly that gels with your setting, expands your world building, and fits in a space in your players' minds that they immediately get it. You 2 knew what Quill's deal was.
Yeah, we're super
as soon as I told you he was a
shepherd.
shepherd.
Right.
Yeah.
Crowdsource your world building to a degree.
Own a lot of it.
Right,
Work
but-
hard on it, but
But there is that moment of, or also like the theory behind DMs building puzzles, and like some of it's just like listen to your players and what they're trying to do, what direction they're going, what their backstory ideas are, and that will help you build a world that your players are going to want to stay in because they are seeing it built out. And again, I've had some bad ideas and I've suggested things that would not work. So not everything the players
I have no
is
comment
good.
this time.
You just don't want to say that I've had some rough ideas, but I have. And it's definitely that thing of, well, these different things that Clella's created have now become such staples in the... I've played somebody who was part of the Shepherds as well, like in a one-shot. We're just like, oh, we know what these are now.
Which one-shot character was a shepherd?
Wasn't Diana?
I believe you mean Jake, I believe you mean the bite-sized bakers, and we'll talk about that in the future.
I did have one. I have a question.
Oh, okay.
We are now 45 years ahead in the future. Who was the king of Issel?
Yeah, tell us who the King of Issel is.
This is a wonderful question, but unfortunately, I did say that last topic was our end. So, unfortunately, to find out whether or not Sigurd Issel, previous King of Issel, is still currently ruling that land, you'll have to check us out on future sessions of Stories to D4. Thank you all so much for coming, and we really hope to see you here next Friday for our session 4.
7 p.m.
7 p.m. Central.
Pick up where we left off in that wonderful ink shop.
All right. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye. What? Oh, what is up with the? Oh,
I don't know.
I
What's
just
up with the ink.
something is up with the ink.
See, Finland would be
Something
so
ain't
happy.
right.
Finland would be
We
so
just-
happy.
Can I?